What's up, boys?
What's going on?
Not much, man.
We got Justin Compton here, King Kamali, Armon Adibi, Iron OGs. What's up, Justin? Justin.
No, it kind of did that the screen just kind of split for a second. I heard you introduce yourself, and that's it.
Okay.
It should be okay. Maybe it's just the initial glitch.
Yeah. Hopefully it's just an initial glitch.
Is everything okay right now, Justin?
Yeah, it's good right now. I can hear you just
fine. Let's just go.
Okay.
Probably it's just an initial glitch.
Cool. All right. So Justin, we met. I guess we never officially met, but let's start off with I guess prepping for the Nationals 2011, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So that year is the year I'm working with Hani, and I'm supposed to, you know how it was back then. I'm supposed to get my pro card that year. And Hani has a couple guys in the show or whatever, more guys in the show, and he basically told me, and Lee Thompson told me, like, hey, the Asian guy that won, I forgot his name, and Win has a big golf ball sized like abscess on his leg. You're good to go. You got this, all that good stuff. What ended up happening on that show, I've spoke about it before. I got into some legal issues. A few weeks out, my house got raided, and the judges found out about that, and they didn't turn me pro that year because of that. And I was supposed to go into the USA's and compete there, but I got shoulder injuries, and that's kind of when my career ended. You competed at that show also. You were younger, and you were just up and coming. And let's roll it from there, Justin.
Yeah, so I actually knew who you were going into that show. You obviously didn't know me. I mean, there's no reason for me to be on your radar at that point. When I was younger, I guess I still kind of do this day, even though I'm not competing. I always look at like who's doing which show and just keeping up with everyone. So I was keeping up with you. I was keeping up with Brad, and I was keeping up with On, obviously, as well, or Ann, or I thought it was On, but yeah, I didn't know anything about like the abscess. I did see it in the pictures after the show was over. Yeah. I didn't know Rob or anything at the time. I was kind of a rookie. I didn't know a whole lot of people on that scene, to be fair.
What were you? I was 29. So how old were you?
I had to be like 22 or 23.
Oh yeah, you're young. You're a baby, yeah.
But yeah, that was my first national show, and that was not really the best experience I ever had as a competitor, but got through it, moved on.
You want to talk about it or no?
Which part?
I don't know. Whatever you want. We spoke.
Well, I did learn a lesson as far as like just generally speaking. I grew up in Kentucky, which is why I have the accent that I have right now. But when I flew from Kentucky to Miami that year, I just started melting when I got there because I showed up like one day out. My body had not acclimated to that type of humidity change. I live in Florida now, and I love it. It's great. But at the time, I just remember getting down there. I'm used to cold-ass weather, and then I get down there, and I start sweating profusely. I'm like, this is bad. Like, this is bad before I even get started. And I remember just melting off on stage, too.
You were working with Hani at that time. Did he not tell you to fly in a few days prior? Or
we didn't really talk about it, to be honest. I think the best I could have gotten there was like a Wednesday, and I think they were doing pre-judge one day and finals the next, if I'm not mistaken. So it was a 2-day show. I think the earliest I was able to do was like a Wednesday, but I don't think I got there until Thursday. And it was just because of my work. Okay. At that time, I didn't have any other income coming in other than just my sole primary job. So I had to go to work to pay the bills.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like everything about that prep, just in general, just kind of wasn't really ideal. You know, I feel like a lot of my stuff, as far as like what I was taking, was not legit, and it just bombed. Like that's probably the worst. Or it's not probably. It is the worst placing and the worst look that I ever had as an amateur or pro. It was my worst look ever, and I was kind of ashamed of it. I almost. So later that night, I kind of not physically pouted, but just mentally was pouting and being a baby. And I was like, fuck this, man. I'm done. Never going to do this again. It's just wasting my time.
Your
and
gear
I took
was
that
bad?
for
You said,
do what?
was your gear, you said your gear was bad? You thought you had fake gear or just?
I think some of it was
Yeah.
real. I mean, there was no way I think I could have possibly lost as much as I lost, because the scale was dropping at a super fast rate, but I was losing a lot of muscle and a lot of fat. I mean, I was losing fat, but I was losing a lot of muscle in the process too. And that's not been normal for me prior or after that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, we were pushing pretty hard as far as the diet. I feel like Hani was a little bit aggressive compared to what I've seen in the past. Like with my metabolism, I know what I was capable of doing, what I was not capable of doing. And he did push me a little bit harder. So maybe that had a little bit of a factor. But when I'm saying I'm dropping weight fast, I'm dropping like 5 to 7 pounds a week consistently the whole time.
Oh.
So like I was just, you know, when you put someone like in a deficit, when they're like excessively muscular, like any national heavyweight would be, you put them in a deficit and start starving them and doing cardio, that muscle is going to probably go just as fast as the fat's going to go without the proper PEDs in place.
So at that point,
in that bodybuilder in the off season, that they look pretty, you know, they can look rather thick, but if they're truly natural, then you see them on stage and they're a little bit stringy by the time they got in shape and made it to the stage.
so at that point, did you know Matt Jensen?
No, I didn't even know that he existed at that point.
Okay.
I guess we were technically living in the same area. I don't know what time that he made it to the Lexington area, but I mean, I grew up in that area, so I was always there.
Okay. So let's roll into y'all and you and Matt's relationship.
Oh, let's see. So I was like 2 or 3 years down the road. I think it was like 2013 or 2014. I was with, this is back, I don't know if you guys remember this bogus company, Gear Nutra. You guys remember that?
Sounds familiar.
They had like it was like the big, it was the letter G, but like everywhere around it was shaped like gears, like a transmission gear or like something like that. And that's a whole different fiasco on its own. But they were the ones that kind of taught me and said, hey, you need to social media market yourself. Like, you're a great bodybuilder, but you absolutely suck with what you do online. That was me putting it nicely, what they told me. Mm-hmm. And of course, I kind of took offense to it, but I didn't understand, of course, maybe they were a little bit ahead of the curve. I didn't think social media was going to be anything, 2012, 13 range. Like, I thought, me posting a picture of what I did today was just for my family and friends, and that was it. I had no idea it was going to go anywhere.
Right.
So I remember they asked me, start posting this, posting that. So I did. And then I wasn't really getting a lot of engagement, to be fair. They said, well, why don't you just reach out and just do something like local, like work out with some of the local guys and, meet some of the people, just basically local network before you start trying to go online. And I said, I was so dumb. I was like, what do you want me to do? Like seriously, what do you want me to do? Like, you're paying me to be a bodybuilder. I eat, sleep, and work out. That's all I do. So they told me to make a Facebook post and just invite someone to come work out with me. And I'm like, fuck, man. I hate training partners. I fucking hate to train with people. I don't mind if you're there, but don't slow me down. And that's what my problem with training partners is. Usually I'm either running faster or I'm stronger. Maybe I'm weaker, not too often, but I don't like all that. I like training solo. I always have. But I will say, Matt was one of the guys that we actually clicked. But they told me to make this post online. I said, you know what? I'm going to train legs. If anybody wants to hang with me on legs, they can come back for more. But surprisingly, I will give him credit on this. Matt was the one who responded. And when he showed up, I thought to myself, he was 160 pounds and I was 270, 275. I was like, God, I'm going to bury this guy. He's not going to leave the gym. This is where he's going to stay. And it turns out he actually did like, he couldn't hang with me on weight, obviously, like poundage, but his heart and drive was there. Now, this is when I feel like Matt's heart was actually in bodybuilding. And I haven't kept up with him in several years. So, like, I have no idea what he's got going on, what the real reason behind him leaving the scene and all that is. But I think at the time he was very actively involved. So we trained together once, and I was just more so impressed that I was able to push this guy to the point that I know most people would have just walked out on me. They would have said, no, I'm not doing that. So I was like, all right, cool. So we ended up training together kind of off and on here and there. But when I started prep for the 2014 Orlando, when I go into prep mode, I kind of go into hiding. Like, I don't talk to people. I like to be alone for the most part. Like, I shut down. Like, I prepped myself for that show, and I may have saw, like, I had one guy that I would train legs with on Saturdays, and that was the only person I consistently saw throughout that entire prep. So I do that show, and then afterwards is kind of when me and Matt linked up again, and we started doing more training together. And training kind of turned into filming, and then filming, it kind of built into a friendship at that point. And we got to the point where we were working out. I'm going to say 4 out of the 5 days a week, we were either he's coming to like my gym or I'm going to his. And it was actually quite productive because, again, I've got a lot of friends in bodybuilding, a lot of people that I've trained with, a lot of people that I like and love, but they don't train at the level that I want to train at. So I simply don't train with them, right? So me and him actually clicked well, and we started training. And it got to the point where it was like, we did like some double date stuff. He'd come over to the house, I've been to his place. So it wasn't just like business, it wasn't just bodybuilding and lifting weights and talking about food and shit like that. It was a little bit beyond that. And then in 2000, I know the exact date. It was Thanksgiving 2015 when I moved to Florida. So I moved halfway across the country from where he was at. So clearly we're no longer training together. But that was the year that I also decided to let him prep me, was for the 2016 Arnold. And I will say that I know a lot of people kind of frowned upon that, but I did bomb. To be fair, I got fourth. I think I got a gift. Just being honest, I don't feel like I deserved fourth at that show. Like,
Justin, at that time, was he working with Dallas McCarver?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, he started with Dallas in, I think it was probably like February or March of 2015. I don't know the exact timeline on that. I know technically he won the Cal Pro with Dallas, and that was, I think that's around May usually, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
So they've been together for quite some time.
Yeah. Okay. And, as I've voiced over the years and, a lot, that I was never a fan of Matt. I mean, he kind of popped out of nowhere when I was coaching, because I started coaching pretty early. And then this guy popped out of nowhere. And like, who was this guy? And then I remember Dallas and other stuff. And then people were saying, yeah, well, he's paying for my gear. He's prepping me for free. One guy even was saying like he was staying at his house, and Matt's wife was cooking all his food for him. So he was staying at his house, prepping him, cooking all his food for him, and he was buying all his gear for him for free.
Like, I started hearing that type of stuff probably around, because that's not the relationship that I had with him.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, I didn't want, nor did I need that. Like, I made my own money. I was fine, and I don't need anybody to cook for me. I own my own house, so I don't have a problem with any of this. So, like, I took care of myself. I did not want a chauffeur. As a matter of fact, I'm the opposite. I usually like people to just step out of my way for the most part.
Right.
But I was hearing those type of rumors in like 2016, 17, 18 range, and I found it really hard to believe at first. And I was like, no, like, and I said, I never had that relationship with him at all. But I do believe those rumors to be 100% legit, because you cannot have hundreds of people saying X, Y, Z, and all of them be lying. All of them just be your haters, like, that's not how it works. I understand you may piss somebody off here and there, but like I said, we we kind of parted ways after the 2016 Arnold, and I will say he did everything in his power. I mean, because if I won that show, think about what that could have done for his coaching career. He did everything in his power, but unfortunately, I don't think he knew how to work with someone with the metabolism that I had, and then tampering with diuretics. So when I say tampering, you know, a lot of people always assume that to be, and don't get me wrong, obviously it's dangerous, you know, for the listeners out there, but like we didn't do anything nuts. But the thing is, I respond better to none. Like when it comes to diuretics, like I legit can just roll. Like if I'm in prep at a week out, I can roll out of bed and walk on stage. I don't need a diuretic to do that. So I kind of followed his plan on this, and ironically enough, it was actually a very similar approach to what Hani had wanted me to do for the 2011 Nationals, and it was two diuretics together. And I was like, man, that kind of backfired in my face. I don't know about this. You know, he's like, I got my. You know, he basically said, I'm going to do it differently. And I said, okay.
What two diuretics were they?
Aldactone and diazide.
Okay. Hani had you do that too?
Do what?
Hani had you do that too?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It sounds like Pulls 101 to me.
Yeah.
Well, Acetos does it with some of the guys too. Like I've seen it on his protocol.
Yeah, but Aceto didn't walk around with Chad to everybody's rooms with a notebook in his hand. Aceto, okay, I was there. I saw what Hani was doing, and I think Hani would say the same thing. He learned a lot from Chad. I'm just saying that since I worked for Chad for most of my pro career, that's what we used to do, and I completely understand what you're saying with metabolism. I'm the same exact way. When I show up Wednesday before a show, I'm dry to the bone. Even if I sodium load, I'm dry. I don't need that much. I just need a tiny little bit. If I take too much, it's lights out for, you know, people think that if you push the diuretics, you know, just eat some pizza and some hamburgers, everything else.
Don't work.
About 4 or 5 days to catch up to it. It really does, especially when you have a fast metabolism. So I understand your dilemma here.
Yeah, Justin, I think at this time was he pushing the gear really heavy at this time with you or no?
No. So I'll just disclose everything when it comes to like gear. So I never really asked him for advice on that because I'd always done my own thing. And when I showed him what I was doing, he just like kind of gave me like, yeah, that's good. Just keep doing what you're doing. I think for that show, I know I took 1,200 tests. I actually wanted to increase the, we'll get to that in a second. I took 600 EQ because I don't think I could actually get primo at the time. I think I was just struggling. And then when it comes to trend, I wanted to bump it for that show, and he told me not to, actually. Like, I was doing the standard 100 milligrams every other day, and I was like, I want to do 100 every day. And he, like, told me no. Now, I also had gotten hooked up. I think in the beginning of this prep, I started with actual pharma-grade Anadrol, and it actually had the guy's name on it. Whoever got it for me still had the guy's name on the shit. So whoever it was an idiot, clearly. But I will say this. A lot of the stuff that's out there is not legit, in my opinion, because when I took 50 milligrams of the actual script Anadrol, my blood pressure went sky high. Like, couldn't eat nothing. I was just lethargic. I felt really good for an hour and a half of the day while I was in the gym. But outside of that, I was pretty tired. But, you know, everything else is pretty standard. You know, like 50 milligrams of Winstrol, 100 milligrams per Proviron, 300 Masteron. I think we bumped the Masteron at like 4 weeks out. I think we had bumped that up. I don't have the email saved on it, but I think it was 100 mgs a day at that point. And then the Clen. Clen didn't go above 120, and I know some people say that's high, some people say that's low. We did use T3 for that show as well. I think we got up to like 37.5 on T3. And I usually don't do T3, but for whatever reason, this was also something that I kind of wanted to address with them, and this backfired on me, is my body does not run well on carbs and fats for contest prep. I got to have one or the other. I can get in shape on keto. I'm just a little smaller and a little flatter, or I can get in shape on carbs. But for whatever reason, if I try to put the two together, it just doesn't work. Like, because Hani tried it too, and it just simply didn't work. We got to the point where it was starving me, and then I got in shape. So I'm telling him that. I think it was probably around 4 weeks out, or maybe 5 weeks out, maybe 6 weeks out. I don't exactly know because all this was through text message. And I said, I'm feeling a little bit behind and I'm feeling a little stressed. And he's like, no, you're good. And I said, I don't think I'm good, man, because I was always notorious for having like my pictures from previous preps. So I was like, okay, this is the previous year and this is where I'm at now. And these two do not look alike. Like, as a matter of fact, I'm a little lighter and I'm a little softer. So this is not the ideal combination that we're shooting for here. So at that point, you know, he kind of just, I don't know if he kind of gave the reins back to me or how he felt about that, but we went doing protein and carbs and my body started responding. And then when it comes to the diuretics, it's always about 3 days because I have two times with experience on the aldactones. And usually about day 3 is when I'm peaked. Like, that's good. So Wednesday before the show, I was like, okay, I'm down in size. Probably not going to beat Kai Green. Probably wasn't going to happen even if I wasn't down in size. But at least I can take second to Kai. Like, I won't get mad about that. I was looking pretty full on Wednesday. And then come Thursday, I was like, you know, this is not really what I'm hoping for here. And then we used like a quarter of a diazide on Friday morning, just downhill after that. Like, I was to the point that I didn't even want to step on stage. I knew I was off enough that, like, at that point, it's like, okay, you're going to piss your sponsors off. You're probably going to have to pay a fine to the Ifbb. You're never going to get a chance to do the Arnold ever again, unless you can somehow fake a car accident or some bullshit, which I didn't do any of that. I was like, just roll with it. And I took 4th, which was not anything to be ashamed of. I just know that I was capable of so much more than that. I mean, I'd beaten Josh and Cedric before, and both of them leapfrogged me that year.
Mm-hmm.
So after that, you know, me and obviously Hani was upset, and then Matt was upset, and I had to kind of make the decision to just tell Matt, like, hey, man, I win shows on my own.
Because, Justin, at this point, people don't understand. Hani was your sponsor. He wasn't prepping.
Yes. Correct. Yeah, everyone thinks that, like, throughout my pro career, because he was around me a lot, because, again, he was sponsoring me. We had a business arrangement. That's what sponsorship is. And Hani, I don't think, has ever sponsored anyone that he doesn't train. I was, like, the first guy. So people just assume that, like, Justin and Hani together, clearly they're working together. And I never said too much about it at the time unless someone directly asked me, because I just kind of feel like it was in a way, I didn't want to disrespect Hani, but at the same time, it's like, I am the one doing this, and I do want credit for this. Right. So, like, now that I'm retired, I do get a little snippy with people from time to time, you know, because people will tag me and they'll be like, oh, he worked with Hani Ramble. They'll tag me at, like, my best showings and say that I worked with Hani. I'm like, no, there's no disrespect to him, but I did that, not him, nobody else.
Because it appeared that way, because I remember Hani had Steve Kuklo before, and Steve Kuklo's here, and me and Steve would hang out all the time and train and all that. And I remember him and Steve, whether he dropped Steve or Steve, they didn't come to agreement for the contract, then you pretty much replaced Steve Kuklo with Ifbb. And you were the next guy that, you know,
pretty much
blow up. Yeah.
Yeah, that was, I think Steve was also, because he went to All Max, and I think he actually got a better deal than I got with All Max from what I was told.
Yeah, so. Amanda got him a really good deal with All Max, because, you know.
Good for him.
Yeah, so.
So what was your overall experience with Matt Jensen? Good, bad, okay?
Okay, so when things kind of, I guess, went a little bit a different direction, whenever I parted ways with him on coaching, we still, like, text here and there. This is like 2016, and I could tell it was a little off. But the thing is, I was not trying to dissolve the friendship. Like, that was not my intentions at all. So then in 2017, that was a rough year for me mentally and physically. We'll get into that here in a little bit. But that was a really shitty year. And if you'd sent me a text message, I may respond to you in 2 or 3 weeks. And that's just because of what was everything going on up here. And I don't think Matt ever really texted me too much. And if he did, I probably texted him back pretty quickly because I was close to him.
Right.
But I remember something that came across. It was the not the jaywalking, not Jay Cutler's jaywalking thing. It was one of Jay's podcasts in his house, like where Jay's in his office and he's interviewing. You can see like his trophies and shit in the background. And he interviewed Matt, and it was something I kind of took it as a little bit of a fuck you. I didn't want to, because I was like, I don't know if this is right. But Jay asked him, he's like, 2 years ago, I didn't know who you were. And now all of a sudden, you're competing at the USAs, potential chance to win the USAs, and you're coaching top Olympians. How did it all happen? So he says, it all started with Dallas McCarver, which it kind of did, because Dallas was his first big athlete that he coached. And Jay's like, well, how'd you get Dallas? And he goes, oh, Flex Lewis introduced me to him. And I'm like, no, that's not what happened. Because Dallas called me when I was in the parking lot getting ready to go to the gym one day. This was like February, March range of 2015. And he was basically complaining about what Hani was having him do. And he asked me to coach him. I'm like, no. Like, I'm not going to bite the hand that feeds me. Like, I'm not going to literally go poach. It wouldn't even be poaching, because he came to me. But like, I'm not going to go take my sponsor's client and like just compromise everything. And who's the asshole? I'm the asshole if I say yes to that. So like, I can't do that. I was like, but I would highly recommend you go to Matt, because we seem to click. And, this was before I ever worked with Matt, by the way. This was 2015. So I was like, you should go to Matt. And I guess they did link up, and they never told Hani either. And I didn't find out till after the show. So again, where was I at with that? You had asked me, I was getting to kind of where things went south. So whenever he said that Flex introduced him, I was kind of like, what the hell do you mean Flex introduced him? And Mad Max, right, Dave?
Yeah.
It's Jay's buddy. I think
he's having all those health problems right now. He's in kidney failure.
Dave is?
Yeah, he started a GoFundMe. He's in kidney failure. He needs a kidney transplant.
Shit. I didn't know that. Like, it's been like 3 or 4 years since I've talked to Dave. Always liked the guy, but I feel terrible because, like, I don't do politics with people. I don't take sides. I don't want to fucking hear about it. I don't want to know about it. I hate politics. Anything political, I'm just going to dip. Like, and I noticed David continued to post. Like, he's very open with his opinion on it. And I think I said a couple of things probably poorly about his preferred candidate that I know he didn't like. And it wasn't a personal shot towards him. I was like, fuck, man, I follow you because of bodybuilding. I don't care about the politics shit. But I do feel bad for him. Now that I know that, I may reach out to him just to, see how he's doing. Yeah. But David actually said something to him. He's like, yeah, I think Justin helped you. And he kind of like vaguely touched on it and then just skipped. Like, you could tell it was a topic he wanted to get away from. I'm like, damn, like, that kind of like you just threw me under the bus. And then it kind of hit me. Right, like before that, so Dallas's funeral was approximately 11 hours from where I lived at the time. I was in Jacksonville and he was like in Jackson, Tennessee. It was like 10 or 11 hours, and I could not make it to the day of the funeral because, they have the visitation and the funeral, usually separate days. I couldn't make it to the funeral because I was actually supposed to buy a business the next day, which turned out that bombed, but I'm glad it did. But anyway, so I was like, I'm going to literally have to drive 11 hours, pay my respects, and drive 11 hours back home. I did all this in one day, so I was awake for like 24 hours. I said, well, hell, you're already invested now, man. You're just going to have to make some pit stops along the road for some coffee and make it happen. And I knew Matt lived in Tennessee at the time, so I was like, I shot him a text message. I was like, hey, man, I'm really sorry. Like, I know you and Dallas was like really good friends. And I meant that genuinely. And I said, if you want to hang out tonight, you want to grab dinner, you want to just say hello, I'll be there in like an hour. I'm on my way. And he said, he wasn't going to be there for the visitation. He said, I don't know how I can endure this 2 days in a row. And I'll give him that because, everyone handles grief and death differently. So like, I won't judge anyone on that. Hell, I know some people that won't even go to funerals because they can't deal with it. But then when he done a podcast like the following week, and it wasn't with Palumbo, I don't know who it was with, but he was kind of bashing a lot of the Ifbb athletes, NPC athletes, and I guess probably anyone and everyone in between on that, because he said, you know, all you guys out here talk about how you love Dallas and how great he was. He's like, but not a single one of you all were at his funeral. He's like, the only people that was there was me, Josh, and Flex. And I'm like, what about me, buddy? Like, I was there too. Like, you're just gonna like disregard me. Fuck, I texted you the night before. Like, my name is on the sign-in book from the funeral, the visitation. Not that I'm mad about any of that, but like, it just kind of like started clicking on me. It's like, damn, like, what did I do to piss you off? Like, why, like, because I thought I had a genuine friendship, right? Like, why is my buddy like just kind of turning his back on me? It's kind of how I took this. And then I didn't say anything for the longest time. As a matter of fact, I haven't said anything hardly, period. But I moved to Port St. Lucie, which is the town that I'm in right now, the same house I'm in. You guys are probably not geographically, well, that familiar with Florida, right?
A little bit.
In other words, like, I live in St. Lucie. Stewart is the next town over. Like, I think I'm like 3 miles from like the county line. Stewart's where Revive is. So you get where I'm going with this, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm like literally right there at Revive. The first 2 months that I moved in here, I guess you could say I kind of did, like, I'm decent around the house. Like, I'm the handyman. So, like, I'm fixing little shit here, little stuff there around the house. I didn't have the desire to even want to go to the gym. I was like, I want my house to be the way I want my house. Like, I'm retired. Who gives a shit? Take a month off. You know, you'll pick yourself back up. And I remember going to Sam's Club. And Sam's Club is, like, really, really close to my house. And I think at the time, I think it was the only Sam's Club here, if I'm not mistaken. And there was a guy, you know how they always check your receipts and stuff at the exit? So I'm waiting. There's like 10 people in front of me. And I kind of like look over my shoulder and I see this beefier guy behind me. And I knew he was a bodybuilder, didn't recognize him. And I could tell when we locked eyes, like, he wants to say something. Like, he knows who I am or he wants to say something. So I was like, I'm not going to say anything. I'm not one to break the ice. So he's like, hey, I think I know you. And I was like, do you? And he goes, yeah, you're Justin Compton. I was like, yep, I am. I was like, nice to meet you, man. How are you? And he tells me that, you know, he actually works at the Revive Raw warehouse. He's like, so what are you doing here? I was like, well, I actually live here now. And he's like, sweet. So you're going to come to Revive? I was like, I don't know. Like, I don't have a gym membership right now. So maybe not. And he goes, yeah, I didn't know if you would or not. He goes, I heard about that big fight you and Matt had. I said, big fight? What's this big fight? Now, at the time, I was very fiery. I was like, oh, if he wants a fight, I can give him a fight. Like, I like to fight, or I did when I was younger anyways. I'm too fucking old for that now. But, you know, like, I took it kind of personal. It's like, wait a minute, you told them we had a fight. Like, I don't understand. But I had reached out to him, and I when I moved in here and got settled in, I reached out and I sent him a text message, and I was like, hey, man, you know, it's been a long time. I don't know if you heard or not, but I live in your town. So if you want to catch up, grab dinner, you know, it's great. Let me know. And he writes back instantly. He's like, cool, man. Would love to. Busy this week. I'll hit you up later. I'm like, okay. Never heard back from it. And then I hear about the whole fight thing. And then I was training like 6 months later at Anytime Fitness, and another guy who I've never met in my life before, random bodybuilder, local NPC guy, somewhere this area of Florida. He goes, hey, I thought you would be training at Revive. And I was like, no, I don't really feel welcome there. So, like, I'm not going to go there. And he said, oh, yeah. He's like, did you and Matt ever link up? I was like, what do you mean? He goes, yeah, he showed everybody in the gym your text message about, like, how there's no beef between you guys. I'm like, I never said there was beef between us. Where the hell is this shit coming from? So, like, I don't know why everyone thinks that. So I just took it kind of personal in the sense it was like, okay, I didn't say anything to you. I didn't do anything to you. But you're also not making any money from what we got going on. So I just, from what I've gathered with other people and a lot of the locals around here, if you're not making him money, he doesn't really have any use for you. So I was like, man, like, it kind of was like a bummer. And I realized, like, I was kind of mad about it. Like, I was, like, aggressively mad about it at first. And I'm like, no, you just got to see through it. You just got to let shit like that go. You're going to meet so many fake people in your life that it just, sometimes they're fake for a decade and you find out after a decade. So that's just kind of like my take on it. And at that point, you know, I started hearing like more and more rumors, like vibes about, you know, how he's doing, like with his coaching. And I had referred a lot of people. When I say a lot of people, I don't know how many signed up, but like from 2014 to 2017, I was not coaching. I kind of was, but I was cherry picking more or less because I didn't want to be involved. But like me and you talked about on the phone, at that time, steroids was kind of like hush hush. Like we don't talk about that. Like that we can't bring up PEDs. So I was thinking, if I'm coaching people and I'm doing this the right way, I'm going to have to tell them what to use. And somebody out there is going to screenshot, have my name associated with XYZ drugs on it, and I'm trying to be Mr. Olympia. So I don't need that type of PR on me. So I didn't want to coach people. So you can imagine, like during that era, this is when social media was kicking off, and I was one of the stars of that time. Everyone wanted to be coached. They all wanted advice. I sent them all over to Matt. Like I don't know how many signed up with him, but I know I gave him over 1,000 referrals, probably.
No, sure.
Over the course of like 3 years. Yeah, like I didn't want to be bothered with it. Hell, I didn't even click on their profiles half the time. They may have been like future Mr. Olympias. I just handed them right off. But I couldn't be bothered. But there was one guy that I was friends with, and he wanted me to coach him, and I just couldn't be bothered, man. So I didn't coach my friend. I sent him over to Matt, and like Matt was actually at my house. This is like a week out from the Arnold. And the guy sends me a text message, and he was like, "Hey man, have you talked to Matt?" And I was like, texting back, like, "I'm looking at him right now. What's up?" And he goes, "Well, can you tell the motherfucker to like respond to my email?" And I'm like, "Ooh, shit, he just got a little hostile with me." And I told Matt, I was like, "Hey, this is the text message I got, man. Like, I don't know what's going on, but like, just filling you in." And Matt said he was needy. And I'm like, okay, yeah, maybe so. And then I found out later it had been 3 weeks since he responded to the guy's check-in. Like, that's not really running a business. That's not running a coaching business.
No.
You know, you don't, I mean, I think 3 days is unacceptable. I think 2 days is unacceptable. Like, any people that I work with will tell you that if I've had a rough ass day, I still get back to you within 24 hours. Usually it's 3 hours, 5 hour range, but sometimes it's 8 if I'm out and about, but like never more than 24. No excuse. If people don't hear back from me within 24 hours, I'm in the hospital or I'm dead.
Right.
It's that simple. Something's terribly went wrong.
Yeah. At this point, you know, Matt, I started getting some people that Matt coached, and their cycles and what he was pushing was absolutely insane. And, you know, Dallas's death kind of got blamed on Chad, but it wasn't. He went to Chad for like 6 weeks, I believe, and then he was with Chad
for a short period of time.
Yeah, like 6 weeks. 4 to 6 weeks. Then he went right back to Matt, and you know, we all saw the cycle and all that with Dallas and all that stuff, and you know what he was taking or whatever. But people that I was getting from Matt was pushing a lot of shit on them. I mean, he was having them basically say, hey, take 10 to 20 IUs of GH a day. If you can afford more, take more. You know, so he was writing this out to people.
Yeah, so I didn't, when those type of rumors came about, I didn't want to believe it because, like, he was, like, the stuff I was hearing, I was like, why would he have an entry-level novice competitor who's never set foot on stage? Why is that guy taking more than a top 10 Olympian? That does not make sense. And I think this was my opinion, I think he knew that he couldn't ask me to do that stuff because I was educated and I knew better. But with a lot of the rookies, man, especially the young kids, like, what do they want? They want to be like their favorite star, whether it's Bumstead or whoever, and they don't want it in 5 years. They want that shit next week. So, like, they're willing to take, like, when you have when you call him credible or not credible, but at the time he was considered credible. When you have someone that's credible and they tell you to take 3 grams of test, because I did see that on someone's protocol, I think it was like 2,500, 3,000 range. And I was like, dude, this guy's never even done a fucking show before. And he's probably on like 4 to 5 grams of gear. Like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, and I have the screenshot of like the cycle, the diet. And if you guys, I'm sure if you see other people's coaching, like if you cut their email off, sometimes you're able to know exactly who that is, right? Just the structure. And I'm looking, I'm like, damn, that looks like destruction. I get to the top, it has his email screenshotted on it. And I was like, oh, fuck, that's legit his email. That's what I have as well. It's like, so I guess, I hate to say it, I'm just speculating, making my own allegation. I guess he really was just running hefty ass cycles on people as an experiment. I don't know why, but that's just what I saw like on the screenshots, and it was kind of mind blowing to me.
He was, and I think it was like he didn't know what to do with them, so throw them on as much shit as basically possible, and they're going to grow, and give them a bunch of food, and they're going to grow. And I always told this to everybody. That's like, Matt is going to get people sick, and then he's going to leave bodybuilding completely. And I would get backlash and, oh, you're just a hater of Matt. You're just jealous because he has Olympian clients, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, whatever, y'all will see. And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, I don't know what exactly went down last year, but every single one of his clients was way off base. And I feel like Clarita of all people should not have been off, because they've been working together for like a fucking decade at that point. There's no way that guy should have been off. And not only did I think he was a little bit off of like his trademark look, he was also downsized as well. And just because I won't say particular people's name here, just out of respect for them, but there's a few people that actually spoke highly of him when he made his announcement to retire from coaching. There was a few people who spoke highly online, and then when I spoke to them privately, it wasn't quite the same message that they put out. I'll just say that.
Yeah.
You get the idea where that's.
Yeah. I even had people like saying, Matt doesn't prescribe these kind of cycles. This is what he wrote me. But that was the time Matt was getting a bad name about like getting people sick. I mean, I had a guy come to me that had kidney failure from Matt. He had to get a kidney transplant. And I was getting emails or messages saying, this is what he's taking. And then other people were like, no, Matt only put me on like 500 tests, 300 EQ. And Matt started doing that because he had all these big names and all the other people that hired behind that. He didn't want to get this stigma because he already had it. So he started writing like baby cycles to people that he knew would never really do anything in bodybuilding. So those people were coming about for him like, you're a liar. He's never wrote anything like that. I'm like, yeah, because I remember one of his athletes, black guy, I can't remember his name, real deep voice, sounds like kind of like DMX. He came on RX, but he basically said, dude, I was taking half of what Matt had me, told me what to take the whole time I was with Matt. I never took the amount he told me to take. I can't remember his name right now, but a shorter guy, black guy, real deep voice. Can't remember his name though.
Justin, I got a question. I got a question for you.
Yeah, what's up?
Your experience, did you was there a perfect range for gear that you found out worked perfect for you? Because me personally, I never took that kind of stuff. And anybody who ever knows me and knows when I was working with Chad and they started all those plasma expanders and all those nonsense bullshit, I know for a fact, because me and Chad, we talk all the time, what Ronnie took, what Chris took, what Flex took, what Nasser took. I knew because it was pretty much the same thing that I was taking. And it was never what I'm seeing now. And when I did push it at certain time, I remember it was a year I pushed it, I didn't like the results. I didn't think more was better. Did you ever get that sense?
No, I didn't. There is one side of me that actually wants to kind of wanted to experiment because I never did. But when I first got into bodybuilding, I kind of learned steroids from like the bodybuilding.com forum boards, which for whatever that's worth, which is garbage. And then I actually, believe it or not, even though I don't talk to Dave anymore, I learned a whole lot about bodybuilding through Dave Colombo. I read through like his 500-page Q&As on muscular development because I was 20 years old when I started my first cycle, and I didn't have any money. Like, I mean, I had money, but like not like I didn't have fuck you money to go take whatever I want to take. So I bought 2 bottles of testosterone, and I got ripped off bad because I think I paid like $150 a bottle for it. And then I had to pay like $1.25 for 5 milligram D-ball tabs. So I only got like 100 of them. So that was my budget. And I remember taking that, and I saw just explosive gains from that. And I was and my whole town did too, because everyone around my town was like just talking about Justin's doing this, Justin's doing that. I just ignored all the bullshit because I knew exactly what was sitting in my closet. So that was the first cycle. And afterwards, I think I did try this. I was going to try Tren because everybody talks about Tren, right? Everybody, like when you see somebody even remotely well built, the comments is full of Tren. So the second cycle, I tried Prop and Tren for a total of 5 weeks. And, you know, when people talk about like the Sam Sulik and the Tim Wilkins talk that just went on, all that drama, bullshit, people talk about like how negative, like how Sam is bad for the sport. And I'm like, Sam has never actually disclosed what it takes. Never. Not to my knowledge. And I don't think he's ever even touched on it. But the reason I want to bring that up, though, is people's like, oh, his skin's bad, so he has to be taking a lot of stuff. And I'm like, guys, my first cycle at 500 milligrams, I didn't have a pizza face. I had a pizza body. Like my skin broke out that bad on that first cycle from just 500 milligrams. And it continued to improve to the point I never had acne ever again. I don't know why that was, but, you know, people make their speculations on that. But for me, I worked with Factory in 2011, and Factory did take me a little higher than like what I was considered like the bro cycles, like 500 or 600 tests, like 400 deca, like 20 milligrams of D-ball, like, and there's nothing wrong with that cycle at all. But Factory took me to 1,000 tests, like 600 deca, 600 EQ, something like that, and then the TRT phase was not true TRT either. I can't remember exactly because this was 14 years ago now, but it was like 250 tests with like 100 primo. And to me, that's not TRT because you're adding in other drugs to that. But I did do it because that's what I was told to do, and I listened. And he bumped things up. Like when I got into contest prep, he did have me do a little extra trim on that junior nationals I did. And I didn't like it because I felt like I couldn't keep my temperament off. Like, by nature, I'm kind of a hot-headed guy as it is. And when you have somebody who's got a really short fuse, and when you add Tren and 30 milligrams of Halo to the mix, it's not going to be good for the people that you're around. Yeah. And I had to acknowledge that, you know, and it took me a little while to acknowledge that. I didn't acknowledge it right. I didn't acknowledge it during or after the prep. I acknowledged it way down the road. Like, man, when you take this, you're an asshole. Like, you're just a dick. I had to just accept it. Like, I was the problem. So I think, you know, the dosages that I just talked about as far as like different compounds, that's where I found to be effective. So like test 1,000 to 1,200. I did do 1,500 one time. And again, I felt like Superman for the hour and a half I was in the gym. And outside of that, just dead ass tired.
Yeah.
So I actually
Hani had me running 1,500 test. He had me doing a SIP rope, 1,500 milligrams in total, and I didn't feel good on that amount, and I dropped it down to 1,000 myself.
1,000 to 1,200 is where I felt was good at. And as far as like GH goes, I know both of y'all remember this guy, but do you remember Riptropins?
Yes.
Do y'all remember those? Oh,
yeah.
Dude, those were that was like the best generic growth hormone you could possibly get, especially for the price.
Right.
So I remember when I started at 4 units. By the way, I was already a pro at this point. And I remember my hands hurt so fucking bad on 4 units. Like me and Matt actually had speculations that he put like an anti-diuretic hormone in there because you'll gain like 10 pounds your first week on Riptropins. Like not normal. It's a lot of fluid. But I got up to 10 total on that. And when I would use Serostems, I would do 9 because where it's an 18 IU bottle, I wanted to basically last 2 days, and I mix another one 2 days, and I mix another one. And then there was another one. Oh, God. It was a farm grade. It was 18 IU bottles. I can't think of the name of it right now. So that one I would do 9 on as well. And then the Genos, I did not like Genotropin at all. Like, talk about water retention. Like, that was the one brand of GH that just swelled me to the point that, like, blood pressure's high. I don't look good. I don't feel good. I don't look healthy. So that one, ironically enough, that's what Matt's clients used was Genos, and they all looked good. I was the only one that didn't fit the mold to that shit. And that was on 10. So maybe I needed to take less of it. I don't know, but I just said screw it, and I went back to the Serostims.
How's your health now?
I'm doing great right now. Like, I can't complain. Like, if anything, I still have some issues. Like, you know, like I have days that I'm a little off, like mentally, but that has nothing to do with bodybuilding. That's just life, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure we all have some stories that we could tell as far as like bad shit that's happened over the years.
Yeah.
But overall, man, I do what I want. I mean, I guess I shouldn't say that because Saturday I ended up popping this shoulder again. I think I got lucky though. I don't think I'm going to need surgery, but like I was trying to do an O'Brien's test on Sunday just to turn my hand down. My arm would just fall. I was like, fuck. But I've been shooting BPC into it and it seems to be very greatly improved.
You're 37 years old, correct?
36, but I'm about to be 36.
36, okay. That's still
What
young.
retired you, Justin? What retired you?
Oh, shit. So 2017, I said that was a rough year for me. I'm going to try to think of a string of events. I ended up, it started out, I think it was January of 2017. I was getting ready for the Arnold Brazil, and I had taken a shot. And I've never had this happen. We've all taken a shot and had like a little bit of swelling, probably a little bit of redness, nothing drastic. So I take the shot, and this was not in the shoulders. I don't know why I'm pointing my shoulders. Actually in the glutes. But I took 500 milligrams of test. I put 250 and 250, so one in each glute. One side swelled. I was out of the country when this happened too, so medical care was not really an option for me at that time. I made it back home. That was not an issue. But when I say swelling, I don't mean like the internal size of the knot was the size of my fist. If I play, and I got a rather large palm. You probably can't tell it here on camera, but my hand is thick. And I'm sure your all's hand are thick too, just from training and other things. But if you were to sit my palm on my glute from the outside, just pressing it against it, that's how big of a knot that I had. So I knew it was like, oh God, something's wrong. I had a fever, and the girl I was seeing at the time, I had asked her to help me a little bit. I was like, hey, can you like massage me? Like, can you try to like rub this out? Like, see what we can do? She like touched me, and I turned around. I was like fighting mad. I was like, what the fuck was that? Like, do you not know when you're massaging, you've got to kind of warm it up? Like, did you just stick your elbow into my glute? What happened? And she's like, I barely touched you. And I like when I started touching it myself, I was like, oh, yeah, that's tender. Fast forward like 7 or 8 days, I make it back home, and that infection was septic.
Wow.
Like I almost died.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that put me about 2 weeks in ICU. Well, it was like a week in ICU and like a week recovering after that. And the crazy part is, I remember when I walked into the hospital, everything, the amount of stuff that was in range was easier to talk about than the stuff that was out of range. And I had just done labs like 2 months prior, like right after the Ferrigno. So like everything, I mean, yeah, liver enzymes a little bit high. Obviously, I'd done 6 shows that year. I kind of expected that. Hemoglobin was a little high. But there was nothing alarming on the labs. But oh boy, this set of labs was completely fucked. So I didn't even know what was going on. It was a little short bit of a backstory on this. I was trying to get a prescription for TRT at the time, and this is when TRT clinics were popping up. And I have a friend that owns one. And he told me, he's like, I don't give a shit what your test levels are. He goes, I just need a set of labs from you, and I can prescribe you whatever. He goes, it doesn't matter what it is. He goes, to keep me legal. So ironically, whenever I flew back home, I hit him up, and I was like, hey, like, I'm going to need a prescription now. Like, you've been hitting me up for like a year. It's like, now I'm going to need it because I'm traveling a lot. I was dating a girl that was not from Florida at the time. So again, I was traveling, and I needed this. I just wanted to feel safe. Like, I walk into an airport, I don't want to be like sitting here paranoid, like, am I going to get caught with something? And I took that shot from where she lived at. And was never going to take that shot ever again because of what it did. He's the one who got the preliminaries back in the labs, and he calls me that night. He was like, hey, Justin, like, what are you doing? I was like, I'm driving home. He goes, nah, turn the car around. I said, what do you mean? He said, turn the car around. You're going to the ER right now. I was like, no, I'm not. It's like, I'm sick. I got a cold. He goes, you don't have a fucking cold. He goes, I don't know what's wrong with you. He goes, but I've never seen labs like this. I was like, what are you talking about? And he wouldn't say anything to me. And I'm like, Now this guy is a hypochondriac. He's a doctor. He's a great guy, but he's a hypochondriac. Like he's the type that like if he sees a 62 AST number, he thinks that you've got hepatitis and you're going to die. Like he's one of those doctors. So I kind of just brushed him off. I was like, I feel like shit, but it's not that big of a deal. But man, when I got home and I told him, he told me if I didn't agree to go to the hospital, he's going to call an ambulance. So I was like, yeah, Mike, I'll go to the hospital. Fine. I drove my ass home. But when I got home, I was like, dude, like I can't physically get off the couch. Like I cannot get up. And I remember I had to call my ex. And I was like, hey, can you do me a favor? She's like, she's grouchy with me. She's like, what do you want? Rightfully so. And I was like, can you please take me to the emergency room? I was like, I don't feel so well. And she goes, what the fuck what are you going on about? So she ends up, I convinced her to take me to the ER, and I'm just sitting there with my head against the window, like dying. And she's like giving me down the road the whole time. It's like 11 o'clock at night. She was just telling me like, well, maybe if you weren't fucking your other girlfriend or some shit like that. Like she's just like, she's mad. And I understand. She had every right to be mad at me. I was the last person she was the last person I probably should have called. But I was living in a town that I didn't know anyone. I didn't have anyone there. Like we moved there together. And then when we split up, like I didn't know anyone else hardly. So she takes me to the ER, and basically she didn't just dump me, but she kind of just dumped me. So she went on to work the next day. I handle and I battle that shit. And I remember the doctor told me that night. I remember asking him because they admitted me, clearly. I was like, so what's going on? He goes, I need to think for a second. He goes, I'm getting transport for you. I was like, fuck you talking about transport? He goes, yeah, you're going downtown to the other hospital. I was like, what? Because I went to like a little remote, almost like an urgent care. It's not really an urgent care, but it's like a satellite branch off the hospital. So he like sends me over there, and I battle and deal with all this shit. Of course, my family comes down, and I get out of that. That was January. I think it was either January or February. I popped my shoulder, and that was it. Like I got to the point where I could not lift. Physically, not only could I not lift, so I'm left-handed. And when I drive, I couldn't take a right turn. My arm was so immobile that I could not move my arm without intense pain. I was like, okay, how are we going to deal with this? Because that was my first legitimate injury, something that I couldn't just put a Band-Aid on and go past it. Fast forward, I go to the Arnold. And I remember the night before I landed, and I went to I'm not about to go to the Powerhouse, you know, the gym. It's right across from the convention center. You're not going to work out if you go there. Like, it's just fans taking pictures, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I wanted to actually work out. So I wanted to try to train shoulders. Foolish enough, right? And I went in, and all they had at the hotel gym was cables. So I'm doing like a hammer grip front raise on cables. And I guess I remember feeling like a little bit of something off, like in the bicep. It wasn't painful. And I went on about my business. The next day, I got up. I was running late. I throw on a shirt and I throw on a hoodie because it's always cold in Columbus. Take pictures of the fans all day, and I don't really notice. I get back to my hotel room, and this was my best friend as well, or one of my best friends, and he's the guy that got me into bodybuilding. He's in my room, and he goes, hey, man, I have a question for you. I was like, what's that? He goes, what are you shooting in your biceps? I said, what the fuck are you talking about? And he goes, dude, something's in your biceps. I was like, you of all people, like you've literally known me since I've taken my first shot. Like, why are you asking me that? I was like, I would tell you, like, you know more about me than probably my parents know about me. So he goes, look in the mirror if you don't see what I'm talking about. And I didn't realize it, but this arm from pretty much the side delt was swollen all the way down the forearm. Like there was not one line anywhere at all. And I'm like, whoa. And I was like, well, first off, if you're accusing me of shooting shit in my arm, would I not shoot them both? Like, why would I shoot one and not the other one? That wouldn't make sense. We had a tape measure, and we actually put a tape measure. The swelling from this arm, this one was 23.5 cold, my good arm. This one was 25. It was the bicep was swollen 1.5 inches. That's how much fluid I had on it. And I was like, man, I'm like so embarrassed. And at that point, I just continually wore the hoodie. Like, I can't make the swelling go down. It looks like shit. But the funny thing is, when I flex it, it looked like Greg Valentino's arm with that crazy looking peak.
Right.
Like, it looked like I had shit in it. And I was like, okay, if I turn like to the back, 0 lines, nothing. Like this forearm was very vascular. This one had nothing. And I was like, okay, you clearly fucked something up here. Deal with it when you get home. Get back to your element. We'll deal with that. I get home, I end up with double pneumonia. I'm like, fuck me. That was back to the ER. It was double and it was also dry. Like I wasn't coughing like most people would. So all I know is I have chest pain. Like I'm inhaling. I'm like, oh shit, chest pain, heart. That was the first thing that came to mind. Dallas had just passed away like a year prior. And I was like, fuck, I'm going to the ER right now. So they ran an EKG, first thing they do, clean, clear, echo, clean, clear. But whenever they done the chest x-ray, they found out that it was pneumonia. I got admitted for like 4 or 5 days with that, mostly because I think my oxygen level was pretty low. So, I mean, even though I didn't experience what people did with COVID, I know what it feels like to not be able to breathe very well. Yeah. Let's say that much. So I deal with all that bullshit. And then I hadn't been out of the hospital for like 2 or 3 weeks. I had a fucking gallbladder attack. I was like, what the fuck is going on, man? Like, I already met my deductible, clearly. I wasn't worried about that. I wasn't worried about the money. I was like, fuck, man, this is like 4 or 5 hospital visits. So then that's when my head started going at that point. I went from 285 to like 220-ish in a pretty quick amount of time. And then Hani wanted, like, all these rumors are going out about me on the internet. Hani wants to see me. And I'm like, oh, shit. Like, I don't look like the Justin he's going to expect me to look because we hadn't spoken in like 3 or 4 months. And then, like, I was like, okay, well, look, snap some pictures, shoot them over to him. I was like, yeah, dude, I've got a whole lot going on.
See you for what? Because you were still under sponsorship at the time, right?
Yes.
Why did 3 months pass and y'all not talk if you were under sponsorship?
Well, we talked, but he didn't physically see me. And I'm one of those people back then, and I still am a little bit to this day. Like, I will harbor like feelings or thoughts, and I don't talk about things with people. Like, I'm the type of guy that, like, if I'm having the worst day of my life, I can smile at you and pretend it's the best day of my life. And most people would never know the difference. And that's mostly because, I mean, what I've got going on, how many times have you ever had someone reach out to you and they give you this 2-hour-long spiel about what's going on in their life, and you're just like, fuck, can you please just shut up?
Yeah. We all have shit going on all the time, and it's like, you don't hear that person's shit and all that.
Yeah,
let me answer this question real quick. This guy said Quentin Beastwood ended Matt's career, to be honest. And I don't remember if you saw that video. Quentin Beastwood came out. Okay, so Quentin came out.
That's when it went haywire.
Yeah, then everybody was like, yeah, Matt did this, Matt was doing this, Matt was doing this, and Matt was like, bye, I'm out of here. I got exposed, and that's when he left. But I wanted to just answer this because
that was the beginning of it.
Yeah, keep going, Justin.
The hardcore. I'm reading what this guy said.
Yeah.
What's the reason why I got into training? I kind of just fell into it, man, to be honest. Like, I started out with a Total Gym. Do you guys remember what those were? Chuck Norris endorsed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I started out with. And then, like, my parents saw, he's actually kind of taking a liking to this. So they buy me a weight bench. A couple months goes by, and then they were like, at that point, I am researching like crazy online, which is bodybuilding. And I ended up going to the gym, and that's where I met one of my friends at the time, was the reigning, I think at the time he was the reigning Mr. Kentucky. So I wasn't the guy to just run right up and ask people questions. I was shy. I was very introverted back then. So I just kind of like sat off in the corner and just like watched him train and watched how methodical, and like, you see a lot of these guys slanging and banging weights, and he was very controlled, very executed on his form. And I was like, that's like, if I'm looking around, I don't want to look like that guy. I want to look like this dude. So I'm going to train like this dude. And that's kind of how I got into it. But as far as being athletic, oh no, I am far from being athletic. Like,
I saw
some. I tell people, like, I caught a football one time with my face.
I saw your younger pictures when you were blonde. You had good shape, big calves.
Yeah, when you're talking about athletics, though, like, I had shape and structure for bodybuilding, but any type of sport outside of bodybuilding, Like I said, I literally tried to catch a football one time and it hit me right square in the nose. Like it was embarrassing. So I realized, and I can't spiral football to this day. Cannot throw a baseball. I cannot run more than I can run pretty fast for a big guy, but anything past 100 yards, forget it. I'm done. I like combat sports, but I mean, you're not in combat sports when you're in high school. Like I started boxing a little bit, but that's pretty much as far as athletics, as far as I can go. And even then, my endurance when I was a kid, my freshman year of high school, before weights, they forced us to take a PE class and you had to run a mile on the track. I ran a 9.5 or a 10-minute mile at 130 pounds. Like that is horrible numbers. That is god awful numbers. Like I feel like Big Rami could run a mile faster than that shit.
So so we got it. We got to your retirement and all that, and so how did it all end? Because I know we talked about the other day when you left. It was like kind of like you got all these people in your corner, and as soon as you get injured or whatever, everybody just disappears. To talk about kind of that experience and when you retired and all that, and kind of what happened with all these people that was in your corner, pro Justin and all that.
Well, I actually wasn't mad or upset about any of that. I actually thought with the whole infection thing, I was like, okay, you're good to go. Like you'll recoup and you'll be just fine. I got dropped by Iron Rebel like immediately. And I thought that was a little odd. So I was like, okay, that's a small contract. That's pennies in the bucket, not a big deal, whatever. And I'd already kind of cut ties with muscular development because Blackman had an issue with Hani, more or less. The first year that I signed with MD, it was a 1-page contract, very simple, nothing fancy. The second year, there was an extra clause in that contract that I didn't see. I thought I was just renewing it. More or less, that clause stated I had to have muscular development approve of any potential sponsors. I didn't see that. So when I got signed with Evogen, as soon as we made that announcement, all hell breaks loose. And I mean, all hell breaks loose. Hani's on the phone with Steve and they're going back and forth and it's not good. More or less, Steve could have actually sued me for that if he wanted to. And Hani told him, he's like, sure, you could sue me and you could sue Justin. But who's really going to lose when this goes public that you just sued one of your athletes because he wanted to have a supplement endorsement? Like, good luck with that. Good luck with the PR that's going to come from that. Steve kind of backed off. Clearly, we didn't renew. So Evogen was still there. But like when Hani saw how I looked, I only had like 6 to 8 more months with him. I think, and I'm not mad at him because he basically said, hey, look, man, I got to let you go. Like, you don't look what I hired you to look like. And again, it's an image thing. You do have certain companies out there like Nutrex. They stayed behind, like Zach Kahn through blowing both of his knees out. MHP, I got to give them props because poor Victor Martinez has been through hell with that. And they stayed with him through thick and thin. You don't see that a lot, but at the same time, I also understand business. And if I'm not bringing money to the table for Hani, why is he paying me, a 5-figure a month salary? It just doesn't make sense. So and we parted ways very mutually on that. And I just told him, I was like, I agree with you, man. Like, I'm not going to cut my own contract. I'm not going to stop taking money, but like you're cutting me. Like, I get it, man. Like, respect, it's fine. So then I kind of found myself in a hole. Like, all the people that was around you is not around you. Your phone is usually blowing up. Your phone's not blowing up. You are solo. You're isolated in a town that you don't know anyone in. Literally, I knew like 2 people in that whole town, 2 or 3. My parents was living in Kentucky. My whole family was in Kentucky. I'd split up with the girl that I moved to Florida with, and I was dating another girl, throughout that process. And I wasn't didn't have the mental capacity to do that either. And when that hit rock bottom, I hit rock bottom with it. Like 2017 was, and competing, working out, none of that shit was not on my mind. I was very timid. Probably is a very light word to use here. Like, I was the guy in 2017 that if you smarted off to me, I'm going to put hands on you. like that was how it was going to be. Like, because I couldn't control myself. Like, I was kind of in a manic state, if you want to call it that. Like, I would have definitely, like the internet trolls, I would have probably found their address and went to see them at that point. Like, that's how like cuckoo that I was in 2017. Needless to say, there was a few physical altercations that year as well. Thankfully, I guess this is where size matters. I was able to prevail and win those, but I've never had my ass kicked to this day, knock on my countertop or wood or whatever. But that was that. And in 2018, I kind of started turning things around. I realized, like, man, you can bodybuild, you can still do this, but you also got to start thinking about your future. Like, it's something I had never thought about, really. Like, I guess I just thought, oh, one day you're going to win Mr. Olympia and you're going to have money and then you're going to croak over and die. And that's your life. And that's not life. That's not how it works. I mean, I was young and dumb. I was like 26 years old. So I started thinking about, how am I going to make money? And how am I not just make money? I wanted to make wealth. Like, I wanted to move to South Florida, which I accomplished my goal. I live here now, and my house is paid for, free and clear. You know, I wanted a boat. I wanted to do all these other things in life. And I was like, you're not going to get this by sitting on your fucking ass and crying. You're going to have to get up and physically do something. So I realized, like, I'm actually pretty good at coaching. And I'll admit, I didn't want to coach people. Like, when I first started, I did not want to do it at all. Like, I thought this is just going to be a nightmare. And I did deal with a lot of people that would sign up with me, and they were expecting like 5-gram cycles. And I'm like, no, like, I'm telling you what I think you need to do. And I think, like, I probably went through like 200 clients in 1 year, because I got those, the quick fix clients, the ones that think that they're going to hire XYZ coach and then look like this guy.
Oh, yeah.
Make it good after 5 to 10 years of putting in the work, but like, you've been training for 6 months. You're not going to work with me for 3 months and then look like me. It doesn't work like that. So that was a very frustrating part of me getting started with coaching. But then when I got the right niche of clients that I liked, I actually, not only am I making pretty good money, I'm not doing a ton of hours, and I'm seeing what I want to see. So I started enjoying it at that point. 2019 was, you know, at that point, you know, I was obviously over 6 figures with what I was making. 2020, I know for a lot of people sucked, but 2020 was great for me as far as coaching. I probably made more money in 2020 than I made ever. Like, even when I was competing and winning shows, I made more through coaching. And it was very enjoyable, because I had a lot of pro cards that year, a lot of success that year. And I don't know why, but 2020 with other coaches, they all said the same thing. Bodybuilding was more alive. The numbers are down right now, like NPC shows. And I mostly work with competitors. I will work with people who just want to lose weight or whatever, but I prefer to work with competitors. And with the numbers are down, all the coaches are going to be down to some extent. But yeah, that was kind of
like like King and I, we've been coaching forever, and it's like, competitors, yeah, it's fun when you got a good competitor that listens, but when you got all these people that aren't listening and want to take all this crazy stuff, me and King talk about it all the time. It's frustrating. So I like a lot of lifestyle people, a lot of transformation people, and but we've got our bodybuilders too that listen and all that. But yeah, coaching is very different today than it was 10, 15 years ago with people listening wise. So go on.
I wish I would have started young, like what you were doing, just helping out some friends.
Yeah.
That's ultimately how I did start, but that's not. I don't know if you guys can see this or not, but I'm getting attacked by my dog right now.
Well, it doesn't matter. You started making good money, so it didn't really matter when you really started. I started in 2002 just helping friends as soon as I started competing, and then I eventually made a business out of it. And King's been doing it forever too. You were doing it while you were competing too, King. Not so much.
When I finished competing.
When you finished competing, okay. Yeah, it's hard to do sometimes when you're competing because you're so focused on yourself and you got all these other athletes, and it gets a little stressful. So
yeah, I was very hyper focused on myself, which is why I didn't want to deal with anyone else at the time.
It's also a different time too, man. Back then we were blessed with contracts.
Yeah.
And magazine contracts. Like right now it's just social media. So it's a whole different world.
And we were able to, I know myself, I was able to get a lot of my clients contracts, or I was able to get them in, maybe a little ad in Muscle Mag or whatever magazine it was, or I was able to get clients things, whether it's a gasp shoot, and they got paid a little bit. So it was fun because you could get your athletes certain deals and certain videos. I remember Muscular Development, they were, a destination. They're here based in Dallas. I was getting my clients prepping for whether USA's or nationals shoots all the time. So there was incentives for these people to compete. And then kind of when that left, a lot of people just kind of like lost interest in competing because it's like, what am I spending all this money for? And what's at the end like for me? So okay, so with all your sponsors and everything, Justin, you said they all dropped you, and business is business. And you talked about Hani and all that. And I know when we spoke on the phone the other day, and King and I talk about it all the time, as how relationships and women can wreck your freaking life, wreck your career. And I know you had a few crazy stories. And did that affect your bodybuilding at all, or was that kind of like after you retired?
Yes, it did. Give me about we're gonna take like a 3-minute break because he's growling and barking at me because he wants to go outside. Give me just a second. I'll be right back.
Yeah, me and King will keep talking.
Come on, bud. Go.
Yeah, his stories are quite familiar.
Yeah.
I mean, you can go off and check to what he did and who he met and how he started and where he got his first cycles from and all. Everything that he's saying, I'm actually absorbing all of it because I went through almost the same exact things as he went through. I thank God I never got involved with anybody like a Matt Jensen. I mean, I don't know Matt, but I'm going by what I'm hearing and I'm going by what everybody else is saying right now. I never had someone like that. I had Amin and I had Chad. You know what I'm saying? So it was a learning experience. And Milos at the end, I worked with him for one show. So I got to learn from these guys, but it was never kill yourself with gear, ever. Even with Amin, as crazy as he is. Never.
Yeah. Matt came in and it changed the whole game. And I remember, like, who is this guy? And people were prepping with him. And I'm like, what's going on? And he had him on all this stuff. And I'm just like, that's when it really got bad. And then you had all these other guys kind of trying to emulate that. And Matt started this team of coaches where they were all kind of doing the same thing too. Let's answer a couple questions. Hello, guys. Is TB500 and BPC peptides for what's the purpose of the drug? Those are healing peptides. I like them. Those are pretty much the only peptides I do like. If you have some tendonitis, it can help with that. It's not going to help. It's not going to work with like serious injuries, like if you got like a full tear that needs surgery or something like that. But after surgery, you can promote the healing process. I have a partial tear in my rotator cuff in my right shoulder, BVC and TB. If I'm using it there, I'm okay. If I stop using it there, my shoulder is pretty hard to train. So, I believe in those two peptides, and a lot of people do them. The problem is you got a lot of peptide companies out there, so you don't really know what you're getting. That's a problem with that. King?
Same shit, man. Everything you just said.
What do you guys think of Trend Grandpa? King probably don't know Trend Grandpa.
I don't think I want to know who that is.
It's a guy on TikTok. It's a grandpa. He's literally old, and he just talks about Trend. He does all these big cycles, and I'm surprised he's not dead, King. I mean, this guy is like, I think he kind of copied this other guy, something named Trend, and he came along and he calls himself Trend Grandpa.
Like to me, man. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. We were just talking about like all these trend names, Justin. I don't know if you're part of what you see these people
Trend
like
Grandpa, like what's
Trend
that?
Grandpa. It's just a guy, an old guy. He calls himself Trend Grandpa, and you got the Trend Twins, which they literally had the biggest booth at the Arnold this year.
Really?
The longest line, the biggest booth. And I told King hasn't been to the Arnold or Olympian forever. And when you go to that thing, King and Justin and your guys are going to remember people's taking pictures with you. They're in a line for you. You're going to walk in, and then you're going to see these people, and these people are in the line, and you're like, what's going on here? and it's going to be like a shock. And I don't know, Justin, have you been to any previous Olympias or Arnolds in the past 10 years?
I went to the 2020 Olympia and I went to the 22 Olympia, maybe 21 and 22. I haven't been to one since then. But I know what you're talking about. A lot of the influencers are getting more like longer lines than the actual competitors.
Way more.
Well, for me, the best part, me and Armon talked about this at the Arnold Classic. When they turned the camera around to show the audience at the Arnold Classic, I didn't see maybe but 2 beefy bodybuilders. It was all kids. It was all moms and pops. It was soccer moms. I was in complete shock because back when the Arnold Classic was the actual Arnold Classic, there were people, everybody in the audience was jacked up and everybody looked good and athletic. It's a whole different world right now. Whole different world.
Yeah, I went to my first Arnold, I think, in 2005 or 2004. It was 2005 when I went to my first one because you did it in 2004. And I think I actually had that recorded because it was on like pay-per-view TV back then. So I went in 2005, but that's what it was. I mean, everybody around me was fucking huge. It was all like actual bodybuilders, or at least people who was aspiring to be a bodybuilder. But now, no, I walk into a bodybuilding event and I'm not sure I'm actually at a bodybuilding event.
Yeah, it's crazy. You got this guy, Jesse James West. I saw some of his stuff the other day. You guys seen this guy?
I've heard the name, but I don't know anything about him.
I mean, he's a natural guy, but he's got literally, they had him at, I think, the Olympian or Arnold, like doing some announcements and stuff. He's probably 180 pounds soaking wet, but his videos are like millions on each video, and people love this guy. And he seems like a very nice guy. There's nothing wrong with the guy. But for bodybuilding and all that, it's just like,
Armon, they had that guy announcing the Arnold this year. What was his name?
David.
Phil Heath
no.
his face when he looked at him.
Yeah.
Strength and power. And
Nick Strength and Power.
Yeah.
Oh, no, he didn't do it this year, was it?
Yeah, it was this year.
Yeah. Yeah, he was commentating the Arnold Classic
with Phil Heath, and Phil just looked at him. You can tell Phil was like, yeah, I know who you are. And he just stood there with his eyes like this, and Phil was just like, I know exactly who this guy is. No, it's become a joke. I don't even want to go down that road, man. It's going to make me as angry as Justin sometimes gets. I don't want to go down that road, man.
He made videos of Phil talking about his abdominal when, like, Nick, you idiot. I have had 4 hernia surgeries too. When you have a huge mesh in there, you can't control it. You can't know when you're sucking in. Me and Phil even had this personal conversation because we both had the similar surgeries. And Nick Strength and Power made a video on Phil about that. And, a lot of these guys eventually befriend these guys because they don't want them to keep talking shit about them. Like, no, don't befriend these dipshits. These guys are bodybuilding fans. They started making a lot of content. And the thing is, some of the content's okay because they put a lot of bodybuilding information out there, a lot of stories, because they don't have anything else to do. They don't have families. They don't have kids. They don't have anything else. They're at home all day on the internet, getting all these other bodybuilding clips and all this stuff like that. But when they start giving their opinions on judging and all this other stuff, and you got this guy commentating the Arnold, I mean, it's insanity.
When he did it a few years ago, I was very disappointed. I mean, I'm not a fan. I don't really want to hear Sean Ray because he talks about Sean Ray, but like I would have taken Sean over Nick by far.
Yeah.
What'd you think of Boston Lloyd, Justin? I knew him personally. We were friends. He didn't listen to anything I ever told him, but that was Boston. What'd you think of him?
So when Boston first hit the scene, it was a 13-gram cycles. That's what made him famous, right?
Yeah.
And whenever I saw this, I was like, oh, this kid's just trolling everybody. And I realized, no, he's not trolling everyone. And then Boston, I think he was a young kid that was very, I'm going to say, use the word confused, I guess, because he changed over the course of time. It changed for the better. But I remember when he first hit the scene, it was like, well, this is what I took to do this. So therefore, all these guys that are up here, they're doing exponentially more than that. And I'm like, not really. You know, so like I didn't like the vibes and the demeanor that he was putting out. I kind of just kept my distance from him. And we had a few conversations back and forth. And some of the shit that I saw, I was like, I don't like this guy. Like, I really just don't like him. And then right towards his end or his downfall, we actually had a couple of, not one-on-one like in person, but like we had some like one-on-one talks online. I was like, you know, the persona that he puts off his videos is not actually who he actually is. No. Like, I kind of got along with him, and I figured eventually, since we both live in Florida, I'm going to end up seeing this guy around. Like, I figured we'd probably actually get along.
Yeah. Yeah, he had a good heart and all that. And the thing is, people don't know, Boston mom was a bodybuilder. Boston told me, you know, I mean, he was flexing on stage when he was like 6 or 7 years old with his mom. They would do those Venice Beach competitions together, and he was up there. And you know, Boston, you know, his mom claims that he's natural, that she was natural, not Boston, claims that she was natural in bodybuilding and all that. And then her and her husband, Boston's dad, owned a gym back in the day. And Boston used to give his mom shots. She's like, Boston, I need injections. And he would shoot his mom with shots. And then she's cuckoo. And I blame a lot of that on her and the parenting, you know, having your kid do your injections for you. My gosh, me and kid have kings. We would never, hey, son, could you come give me a shot in the rear delts? I mean, like, what is that shit? I mean, it's crazy. But, you know, Boston, like, loved to troll people, but it wasn't malicious at all. He just played with it and had fun with it. But I don't think it was good for the industry, his whole role. Like, a lot of clients that came from Boston to me, they're like, yeah, the kids are like, yeah, my parents hated him because he had all these 3cc shirts made and started all this 3cc stuff. And I don't think that was good for the industry at all. And that leads to this next one, Justin. We spoke on it briefly. Me and King have made videos about it before. And what do you think about the Sam Sulek? Is he good or bad for bodybuilding?
I don't really think either way. Like, he's good for body. If anything, I got to say he's good because he mostly has positive light around him. Like, I've never seen Sam make a negative comment. And I don't really follow, like, I'm not like his biggest fan by any means. I don't watch his videos. Like, and that's nothing personal towards him because I watch very few people's videos. But from what I've seen and what other people told me, he's never said anything negative at all about the sport. And when people say that, like, he's taking XYZ, and I'm like, first off, where are you even coming up with this? Because size and how much you take is no correlation, because I've seen some big guys using smaller amounts, and I've seen some little guys using suicide cycles. So we don't know what he's actually doing. So, like, when people say that he's putting out, like, the wrong vibes and the wrong information, I'm like, all the guy does is film his workouts and show himself eating food. Like, he shows 2/3 of what bodybuilding is. He don't talk about that other 1/3 of it. And a lot of people get mad too. They're like, oh, he needs to post his cycle. I'm like, he doesn't owe you any information. No. He doesn't owe you what he's taking. That's something that drives me nuts with, like, the fans of the sport. They feel like they see a picture of Samson. Well, don't post his diet. You got to post his cycle too. Well, what the fuck good is it going to do you? Like, are you going to look like Samson if you take what he takes? No, you're not. But yeah, that's kind of how I feel as far as Sam goes. Like, I'm not jealous in the least. I wish I had his following. I was making the money on YouTube that he is. Like, so I think Sam should keep doing exactly what Sam is doing. Like, I haven't seen or heard of anything bad about the sport that he's put out. I mean, it's not normal to eat a whole box of cereal, but, like, you know, if you get rid of bodybuilding, people are like, oh, it's so unhealthy. I'm like, okay, think outside of bodybuilding. Don't think about competitors. Don't think about weightlifters. Just think about average people. A whole box of cereal would be the absolute least of the average American's health concerns. Yeah. So, like, And not to mention, people respond very differently to different foods. Like something that you eat in your 20s, you may not be able to eat in your 40s, or what I eat may affect my cholesterol and not the next guy. Like I was blessed with that, I guess I could say. Like I can eat junk food and my numbers, like glucose and cholesterol, calcium score, all check out good. But we've all seen people, since you all coach people as well, like, some people can do everything and get it all the way down to the right gram of rice and still have fucked up numbers. So as long as Sam's taking care of himself in that regards, I mean, leave him alone. Let him eat his cereal. Like he's done 2 shows, and he's done more in 2 shows than most people criticizing him will do their entire life. So I mean, there's that. And I don't think he looks.
A lot of the hate.
I'm not trying to rain on his parade here. He is a pro now, but like the amateur show that he did, the regional show, he was pretty far off. But I think he messed something up with the peak, because I remember he had tan on, so I know it was the night before the show, but he pulls his shorts up and he flexes his legs. I'm like, oh shit, he does have legs and they're diced. But then when he walked on stage, I don't know what happened to him. Yeah.
Well, Jay Cutler even kind of told him, Jay was like, weeks out, and Jay got backlash for this. He was like, Sam told him what he was eating, and Jay's like, listen, he had a real talk with him. Listen, like, I know you're trying to do this, but this is not what bodybuilders eat. If you're trying to get on stage, you can't eat what you're eating now, like Rice Krispie treats and cereal and stuff like that. You can't do that macro shit and get on stage and expect to have this outcome. And so I think he took that into account, and Jay said he, changed up his eating a lot. I think a lot of people hate on him because they're like, well, he didn't, especially a lot of older bodybuilders, because he didn't really make accomplishments that they did, maybe top pros, winning pro shows and all the magazines or whatever that. And they're looking at him and it's like, okay, this kid just got online and he's making millions. It's not his fault. We would do the same thing. Man. We're not going to like, oh, don't give me money. He just filmed his workouts and did that. He's not telling people how to take steroids and all this stuff. So he gets a lot of hate that he shouldn't at all. He did that show. It wasn't his fault that nobody else showed up. That was really going to like crush him. When he went to the Arnold Amateur, there wasn't a lot of competition there. I think, and a lot of people were like, this was kind of pathed out, for him, because I thought he was going to do bodybuilding, but he did classic instead, because the bodybuilding, if he would have done it at the local show, he would have got beat by the heavyweight guy in bodybuilding. The guy looked great. And then if he would have competed at the Arnold Amateur bodybuilding, he would have got beat there. But he's young. He's a kid. Whatever direction he wants to go. If I was him, I probably would never compete again, because let's say he competes at a professional level, eventually gets beat. What does that do for his whole persona?
Yeah, I think that could be very bad for his brand. And I actually agree with you. I don't think he has the talent, the structure, or the potential to become Mr. Olympia. And he's making more money than probably the top 10 classic physique. Well, not more than Bumstead. But take Chris out of the picture. He's making more money than 2nd through 10th all combined. If I was him, I would continue to thrive around the what if part of bodybuilding. Like I would just let people, kind of like what Kai Green does in a way when he talks about making a comeback, it keeps him relevant. I would do that if I was Sam, like he could easily pinch another $5 to $10 million out of this, just the YouTube thing. Because eventually it's going to get old, but I would keep taking that money. And then if he has to compete 5 years from now, then fine, make your comeback, create some hype. But I don't think he's going to do well as a pro, just from a structural standpoint. Yeah. And he may prove me wrong on that. I've been proven wrong before. But I agree with you. I think he should just ride this out and make his money. Yeah, still do what you're doing. Still hammer yourself. Like, do the sport, man. Do what you love. Just maybe not get on stage. Think about, think about a bigger picture.
Yeah. Maybe in a couple years, he's 23, maybe by 25, he might have the physique that's competitive. We don't know,
Yeah.
So,
not to mention, he could have obviously been leaner, which means he has room to add more muscle. And now as a pro, he's got like 10 more pounds. if you stack on 10 to 20 more pounds on someone's frame, it can completely just reconstruct their physique.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Justin, did you use any Synthol in your bodybuilding days? Me and King talk about it all the time, and me and King will say this. Most of us did use it, but it's like a hush hush thing. I've used it. King has. We all admit it. Some people haven't used it. Did you ever use it in your career?
I never did, and I won't bash anyone who did use it because, I mean, I look at it like this. Our goal is to try to have the most perfect physique that we can possibly have. Just so happens I was blessed with larger limbs and not like, I didn't have the biggest, fullest chest. I didn't have the greatest back, but you can't put oil in those muscles. So like, if you're not trying to have your delts be 3D or your arms a little bit more fuller, or even calves for that matter. But the thing is, I was blessed with big arms. I've got capped shoulders and I have good calves. I had a great quad sweep. So like there was nothing for me to like touch up per se. Mm-hmm. I mean, that being said, I was hell bent. I was going to go as far as I could go. So if I needed it, I was absolutely going to do it. So like, I can't someone that like, oh, you shouldn't do this or you shouldn't do that, because again, I used 1,200 milligrams of test. If that didn't work for me, I probably would have done 1,500. If that didn't work, I probably would have done 1,800. I probably would have found my sweet spot to whatever's working best for me. So I don't knock anybody who ever used it. I just feel like a lot of people abuse it. And when they abuse it, it just creates a bad reputation for the sport in general.
Yeah.
Hey, what was that guy's name? Ernie Taylor?
Yeah. Yeah, with the triceps.
The retarded looking triceps. Like, I feel like once you walk on stage with that, that's branded to you. You're going to have to walk on stage every time with your arms loaded with that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Ernie did it. You know, Flex, I think, ruined his physique towards the end with it in his arms and shoulders. A lot of guys, you know, Nasser with his rear delts. I think a lot of guys, they ruin their physiques with it. But, you know, it's like people like, if you're enhancing a muscle like a bicep or shoulder or something like that, okay, whatever, fine. But if you're using it and abusing it to where it looks funny and someone's not telling you, like, listen, stop doing whatever you're doing because it's distorting your physique. But we see it a lot today, the outer quad sweeps that sweep way out here that, you know, and that's not like how the anatomy works. A quad sweep doesn't sweep all the way out here with all these, you know, lumps and bumps or whatever. So Jay Cutler was influenced. You get that a lot.
Sometimes I think, I don't know, maybe it's the hair. I don't know. But like
white guy, blonde.
I had a guy, it was one of my clients, and I noticed he was doing it right. He never told me that he was using, I think, Dave's product, Painless Pumps. And we'd worked together for like a year and a half. And I said, man, I'm really proud, dude. Like, your arms look fucking great. And he goes, oh, I've been putting like, I don't know, it was like 1 cc a day or something like that in his arms. I was like, oh, I told him, I was like, I can't see it. And if I can't see it, the judges can't see it. So just keep doing what the fuck you're doing. Like, you obviously got it done right. So just keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah, Dave resold that product. It was actually Steve DeLuca's product, and Steve passed away. But you know, I resell a product on my site called Instasize, and I use it with some of my competitors in their arms and outer quad sweeps, and some bikini girls. It works really well in the glutes. But me and King have talked about before with these wellness girls that are having these butts that are just so filled up with fillers and silicone. It's just gotten out of control. And when you judge now, it's like, you know, I judged for years. It's like, it's obvious what they're doing to their glutes. It's like, why are y'all not counting off? Because that's not muscle. That's a filled up glute with silicone, PMMA, whatever you're putting in there. And it's just like, why are they not counting off for that? I don't understand that whole deal. So
let me ask you all's opinion about this, because I have the same thoughts and the same concept of that. But when they add something to it, whether it be Synthol or what, like, I thought it was that thing that Rich Piana had done to his arms, like what'd you call it, PMMA?
PMMA, it's a certain type of filler, and they are using that. Oh, yeah, that's what they're using it, or silicone.
So if you use that, will you still be able to see like the striations and the lines, like in the muscle?
No.
Okay. Well, the reason I was asking is I remember now she did her glutes did look funky for like 2023 Olympian Sunny Andrews.
I did a
But, like,
video on her. Yeah, she said she
previously,
injected IGF in them, and you know, she said she injected IGF in them, and that's what did it. And then I'm friends with George Farah, and I asked George. I said, George, did you tell her to do anything? He goes, brother, I told her not to inject anything in there. She didn't listen to me because he was coaching her at the time. But yeah, she was doing all the filler shit in there.
well, I just remember like when she would there was that year that was like 2000. I think it was 23. She didn't look very good. She looked way the fuck off on everything. But when Sunny was on, you could see like when she would turn to the side and like sit on her glutes, you could see all the fibers popping through it. So like that's why I thought like if somebody, because she probably has arguably some of the best glutes in the world. If she's got to be in the top 5.
Yeah.
So like I don't know why she would want to put anything in there if there is anything in there now at this point. But like I just know that they've been shredded. And I just didn't know if you could still, if she was using something and could still have that shredded look. So that answers that question. But there was definitely something off in 2013, or sorry, 2023.
Yeah.
That's also whenever, talking about stress factors. When, right when I let Tyson out, my mutt. I got an American bully. I just call him a mutt because he acts like one. But yeah, he's funny. His dog's nickname is Tyson, and he will bite the shit out of you too. So the irony in that, right? But you're talking about like the stress. I remember she was going through her, I don't know what I'm going to call it a situationship with that Chris.
Bro, I know the whole thing because he was messaging me nonstop, wanting me to do all these videos on her. He sent me videos of her putting all sorts of things up her butt and all this crazy stuff. And he's like, "Can you post?" I'm like, "Dude, I'm not posting this stuff." And I'm like, I'd go to jail. And it's like wanted me to do all these videos on her because she was married the whole time, and this guy was just her boyfriend. And I'm like, I'll do one video of her on the glutes, and that's it. And then when she did that to her glutes, her placing dropped like dramatically. So they counted her off. But now these wellness girls, it's just all of them do it, so they're not counting off at all. Yeah,
that's nuts. The reason I was going to backpedal there a little bit. You'd asked me about like relationships and stress, like right before I went to let the dog out, and I wasn't dipping on that question. He's very needy, and he tells me when he wants something. So I was like, if I don't take him out, he's going to piss on my floor. So
go ahead, yeah.
But no, I do think that plays a huge role in both like how you succeed in your off season, but more importantly of how you're going to peak and like fall on show day, of being able to have someone in your corner that supports and understands like what you're doing. And I remember when I first got started into bodybuilding, like really truly, getting after it, the girl I was dating in college, she liked the idea of dating a bodybuilder, but she didn't like anything that a bodybuilder does, like go to the gym. She didn't even like that. Like I would catch grief because I want to go train. So that obviously my dumb ass stayed for a while too. So
sounds familiar.
I hung out and I didn't stop the gym. I just felt like I had to I got like 30 minutes. I got to get this in 30 minutes because I got to go see her. Like nowadays it's like, no, I'm going to take my time and I'll see you when I see you. So that's
we all dealt with that, and I think it hurt. Like King, even myself, it hurt. Gosh, when that nationals that year, Justin, we did together. My house got raided because of a girl was making fake profile of her sister on my computer. So that's literally what didn't turn me pro that year. And so people's got to understand like who you have in your corner. All these girls, they can really wreck some habit. I think you answered this question already, but it was like, what was the reason you got into hardcore intense training to begin with? He answered that already.
I went through that one. I didn't know why it popped back up again.
Yeah.
But no, moving forward, with the girl that I was with when I turned pro, she was very, very supportive of everything that I did. So like I remember when I was at junior nationals, Fakri, for whatever reason, he wanted to change one of my meals to steak, and I didn't have any steak. I had no red meat left. And rather than me saying, hey, man, can I substitute something? Because, I didn't have a car. We were downtown Chicago. And she just goes, don't worry, I'll be back. And she like fucking walked around downtown till she found a steak. And I'm like, shit, I ain't got a fucking knife or nothing. She brought the full works back. Like, she made sure that I was taken care of, I was comfortable, and it reflected that reassurance showed on stage because I looked good on stage. Not to mention I walked out with confidence as well. And I hate to say, like, you know, after me and her, you know, parted ways, I got with a different girl who she didn't have a problem with the way I ate. She didn't have a problem with me training because she trained as well. But we did bicker back and forth on a lot of different topics. And just so happens, a lot of it was while I was in prep, right towards the end of my prep. And like I said, I'm aware, and I'll just say it myself. I'm an asshole when I'm in prep. Like, I am a complete asshole. It is what it is. But it's not the drugs, I don't think. It's the actual calories because, you know, when people's like, oh, it must be that trend, it must be that. And I'm like, no, dude, when I'm hungry, I'm frustrated when I'm hungry. It's like we all get that, except I'm that way all the time when I'm in prep. Mm-hmm. But I will say that I won 2 shows while I was with her. And both of those shows, she'd probably want to punch me if she heard me say it. It's not like she's going to listen to this anyways. But both of those shows I won, I flew out to the Golden State on, I think, a Tuesday for a Saturday show. And I was alone for like 5 days. My body just came together because I didn't answer the phone. I sat in the hotel room. I watched movies. I posed. I ate. And that was it. I went to the gym, did the last 2 workouts. That was fucking it. I think I went like an extra hour out of my way. I went to Chris Dim's gym just because I wanted to be left alone. And I looked great on stage. My body was cooperating. Fast forward, you know, I did Hong Kong, same way, by myself. I did get a phone call while I was over there, but not from her. This is from a different friend that threw some stress at me. So I don't think I was quite at my best in Hong Kong, but I was still pretty good there. So I remember I felt like a total shithead for this. But when it came time to do the Olympia that year, she's like, hey, let me know what dates I need to book off. I was like, none. Mm-hmm. She was like, well, I'm coming with you. And I said, oh, actually, you're not. And I wouldn't let her come to the Olympia with me. So, like, in her mind, I'm sure she thought that I was there, like, with some other girl or some shit, which was not true at all. Because, like, when I'm in prep, women in general is not on my mind. It's just not there. So she probably thought I had different intentions, which I actually just simply wanted to be by myself and left alone.
Well, the classic example of that is Lee Haney. He used to move into an apartment away from his family the last 6 weeks before a show, before any of the Mr. Olympias. And he lived just like that, like a monk by himself, just so he can get his mind in the right place for the Mr. Olympia. And hey, 8 times in a row. So I guess he was doing something right.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, well, you know, Dexter was kind of known for that too, right?
Yeah.
Dexter lived in Jacksonville, he lived about 30 minutes from where I lived at when I was there, but he would always fly out to Venice when he would get ready for a show, like 8 weeks out, and he would spend his time out there. I guess it just put his head in the right place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, to me, I feel like training in Venice would put my head in the wrong place because just so many people around, but it worked for him, and that's what he needed.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had Charles Glass with him every day, so I think that helped him out.
Yeah, I'm sure that helped as well. Anything that was going on, Charles probably soothed.
Yeah. Man, Kamali and Armon have to say I've been absolutely loving these. I'm personally a big advocate of the old school mentality of training hard and dieting even harder. 9 inches is the pinnacle. Compton is absolute legend. Always respect his opinion and perspective on things. There you go. Man, Justin was my favorite bodybuilder to watch back in 14 to 16. Absolutely nutty physique. Absolutely. Is good video the closest to look to Justin of all the pros competing today? I think Vito looks insane now and do damage at the show.
I think he looks more like Big Ramy than anything.
Yeah, y'all's physiques aren't similar.
I think the closest thing to Justin that I see now is Martin. They have similar physiques.
Yeah. I think I would agree. I mean, me and Martin are much different facially, but I think physique-wise, he's probably the closest thing that, you know, would resemble each other.
Yeah, you have bigger arms, though.
Oh, yeah. You're a much bigger
guy.
You're a much bigger guy than Martin.
I'm taller than him, too. Like, I don't know exactly. I think Martin's like the 5'7", 5'8" range, and I'm like
No, he's shorter. He when he lived in Dallas, we trained together for like several weeks, and a great guy, hard worker. He's like 5'6.5" probably. But no, you're a much bigger guy than him, muscle wise.
Yeah,
much bigger guy.
We ready for this, Armon, or no?
Yeah, let's let me any more good questions. Did you ever work with John O'Regan? Yes or no?
No. I actually was not a fan of John O'Regan. Like I didn't like to be honest.
Let's do the speed round.
All right. So Justin, we always finish up with the speed round. I'm gonna say something. You tell me the first thing that comes into your mind. Okay.
Okay, this is gonna be new for me.
All right. So here we go. Your favorite cheat meal?
Burgers.
Best lift in the gym?
Hang on. The guy that said it was glitching, it just now glitched. Best what?
Best lift in the gym?
Deadlift.
Deadlifts. How much?
I did 725 for a triple.
Excellent. Your best body part?
Arms.
Hani Rambod?
Take him or leave him. Either way.
Okay. Your favorite car?
Ferrari.
Nice. Worst injury?
Shoulder.
Both? Left, right?
Nah, left.
Left shoulder. Okay. Which is a better run show? The Arnold Classic or the Olympian?
The Arnold, by far.
Everybody says that. Have you noticed that, Armon?
Yeah.
Everybody we asked that question said the same thing. Your favorite overall athlete, any division, any sport?
Oh, shit, man. Probably Mike Tyson.
There you go.
Which hence my dog's actually named after Mike.
From the biting. I know you made it very clear.
Any last words, Justin? I mean, we'll see. Keegan has left, but any last words? Like we pretty much covered a lot. I know we talked on the phone the other day for a long time, but anything else we're missing?
Well, hold on. Let me finish the list first, when we get to that.
Oh, I'm sorry, King. I thought you were done.
No, not done.
Excuse me, Mr. Kamali.
100% Samson, 100% Hottie. Who wins?
100%, I'd say Samson, but we haven't seen Samson 100%, so I would probably see Hottie is probably going to be the one to take that.
Wow. Okay. Here's one. 100% Justin Compton versus 100% Martin Fritzwater. Who wins?
I think I could beat him just simply because I'm a larger frame guy.
Good answer. Who's winning the Olympia this year?
Derek.
Really? Wow. Okay. Blondes or brunettes?
Brunette.
Wow. Typical white guy answer right there. Brunettes. Worst part of bodybuilding?
Oh, shit, man. Probably the posing.
Really?
For me. Like, you were one of the best. So, like, you made it was entertaining and fun, but for me, I hated it because I sucked at it.
Best part of bodybuilding?
Honestly, man, probably the actual dieting. I actually liked it, the structure.
Structure.
Yeah.
Good answer. Okay, and the last one is best advice you can give to the young generation coming up.
Follow the right people, make sure that you're making the right choices. I mean, that's not really a short answer, but, follow the right people. Don't go down the wrong path.
Cool. All right, Armon, go for it, man.
I mean, on that note, when these guys get into bodybuilding, they go on social media, and everybody has coach that on their bio or whatever. It's very hard for these people to decide, who to go to. We all coach, so things to look for. Of course, we got track record, how long the person's been doing it before or after. So a lot of people will be like, oh, well, they got a Mr. Olympia, or they got this person, they got this person. When we could well know Ronnie, Phil, all those genetic freaks, anybody could have prepped them that was good, and they would have been the same. So people like Matt Jensen, like he had all these people, Dallas, and like, oh, we need to rush Matt Jensen. Now the new one is the Boss of Outlaw guy. Everybody's rushing to him. And what are your thoughts on all that? How does somebody pick a good coach when they're coming into this crazy industry?
So yeah, I agree with what you're saying. Look at someone's track record, see how long they've been doing it, see the results that they've been able to produce. But sometimes you got to look at it like not because that you're training an Olympian athlete. Say take someone who is that you probably look at and say he'll never really amount to much, and you can get him a pro card, right? Like, yeah, he's not Mr. Olympia, but like 5 years ago, no one said this guy could do anything. So like, look at the transformations of the before and afters, because we're all not built equally. I would say that, and then look at the death toll. I hate to say that, but I mean, think about what it is. Like, I've had one person pass away under me, but it wasn't health related. It was actually a suicide. And we still to this day, don't know why. But like, I've never had anyone with any health complications like that. So I pat myself on the back for that. But yeah, I think looking at that, you can't really look at just the price, because I've seen some highly overpriced people that don't know shit about what they're doing, and then don't go for the poor budget either, because you got to think, if this guy's charging $100 a month, he probably has 500 clients. You're probably not going to get a whole lot of attention.
Right.
These guys that hop on the latest and greatest, Boss I think he's doing a good job at handling himself, because I think he's got to be like a babysitter though right now, because I think all he's got is like top level pros.
He's going to get burnt out. He's going to get burnt out, and I think he already is. And someone contacted him the other day from my gym. They're like, this guy I would never want to prep. He's talked to me before, but he's like, yeah, I talked to Boss Outlaw. Now he's like, he has people underneath him that are coaching people, which that never
okay.
But
but do those people know they're working with someone else?
No, they don't know. This guy, he said he had a feeling he wasn't talking to Boss. That's what he said.
If that's the case, man, I don't like that, because
no.
It's like if I had a team and I had like 3 people under me, and you want to hire, the first person, second person, whatever, that's fine. But like, I wouldn't take someone's money and then be like, hey man, I'm going to give you $10, $20 an hour. Here's my phone. Here's my login. Do all this shit for me. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to sell out and be that guy. So that's something, look for coaches who have known to have ghostwriters, people that answer the emails that, if I'm paying a premium to work with someone, I want to be working with that person. I mean, I can tell you, I think Jensen got caught doing it, right?
Yeah.
He got caught up in it. I know there's a couple of other ones. I'm not going to splurt out the names because I don't have valid proof of it, but I know exactly who the ghostwriter was. But there's been a couple other guys that's done that before, and I don't like it, and because you're deceiving people with that.
Well, Jensen his wife was doing it at first, and then he had other people underneath him. And it's like, if you're like King and I talk about all the time, if you're that busy and you're taking on that many clients, you're just being greedy. I always keep my clients to, if I can't take care of that client, I refer people to other coaches all the time that I'm friends with. If I felt like at that time period, if my load is too high, I'll refer out. I think that's wrong, because, I don't think you can teach people to coach other people. That's a niche that you're good at, that you have, that you're passionate about. And a lot of these guys, they're hiring the wrong people all the time. I see it all day, and they complain about it, and they'll still hire the person next year and still get in place on. But it doesn't make sense a lot. And a lot of people, King and I get it all the time. They'll come to us, they'll win a couple shows, and then they might hire another coach the third time and not even place. I'm like, why would y'all go hire someone else if you just won a couple shows with us? It doesn't make sense. I'm sure you've had some weird stuff like that happen to you.
I've had all that. I had a guy. I won't name drop him here because he is an Olympian now, and he's actually really good. He's in Classic. This is kind of comical of how it all worked out. Was I prepped him for a show, and I told this kid when I met him, I was like, you're going to go very, very far. I believed in him, and we won a show. Sandy was the judge, and Sandy told him, if you bring this to the USAs, you're going to win the USAs too. And I actually told him the same thing. I was like, dude, we have like a 6 to 8 week period between that show and the USAs. It's like, we're just going to chill. Well, I mean, I'm going to get you like 10 pounds above your stage weight, and we're just going to hold it and chill till like 3 weeks out, and then just bring it back down. Slow, simple, effective. I noticed right after that show, when I would make XYZ changes, I wasn't seeing the same results that I was expecting and had seen in the past. Ironically enough, the guy paid me through the show, but he wasn't working with me. He was working with someone else who agreed to do it for free. And it wasn't Matt. It was someone out on the East Coast, or sorry, West Coast. And turns out when he went to the USA's, he was off. He was probably like 85%, and he got second place in his class. He didn't even win the overall. Like he would have easily beaten everyone in that contest. So it's like the head judge told you, just bring this again, and you got it, and you fucked off with somebody else. Like, I didn't feel bad for him, but what was weird was I think in 2020 he hit me back up, and I actually turned him down. I didn't want to get with him again.
Wow.
Yeah, well, it goes like that.
Another one sounds very familiar.
Yeah. Well, Justin, do appreciate it coming on. I'm sure we'll have you back again because we're going to do some predictions for other shows. Thank you for coming on and sharing your story and what you've been doing, and how do people reach you if they want to get some coaching?
Instagram is the fastest way to reach me, and if you go to my Instagram page, you'll find my website there. But my website is www.justincompton.biz or .com. They both take you to the same place.
Awesome. Appreciate it, Justin. Thank you for your time. Have an amazing day.
Oh, hold on. One second. Just hold on. You know what I'm going to go grab right now.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So, like, I thought this was kind of ironic and stuff because this was 2002, 3, or 4. Remember that photo?
I do remember that.
Yeah, I was. That was Tricky Jackson's show. You guest posed that.
Tricky Jackson, yeah, Kentucky. That's right. You're right.
Yep. That was about 20 minutes from my house. That was probably you. You might have been the first pro bodybuilder besides Tricky that I'd ever met in person.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
absolutely crazy. Justin, your stories, your trials and tribulations, everything. I was just telling Armon when you went to let out Tyson, very similar. I can relate to a lot of the things you went through, and it's good that you're at the age you are right now, and you're healthy, and you're smart, and you're making money, because a lot of people that we know, they've kicked the bucket, and they're either gone, or they're amputated legs, or they're crippled. There's a million things wrong with them. So God bless you, man, for getting to this point. And I wish you the best, man. I'm sure we're going to see each other again.
Yeah, you too, man. You guys have
Thanks,
a good afternoon.
Justin. Yeah. Peace out. Iron OGs.
Take care, man.
Later.